Hi, welcome to Travel Tuesdays with Teresa. And this week's episode, we have Stacy Moss, who is a yacht charter broker for campers in Nicholson, and she's based in Florida, in West Palm Beach, Florida. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So, yacht chartering is not for everyone. It's a very niche business. And I just want to ask you a couple personal questions to kind of get to know who you are and
Of course.
what intrigued you. How did you get into the yacht charter business?
Well, it's kind of a long journey. I was in the professional world, and I will keep this short. I was in the professional world and sales, advertising sales for many years. And I moved to Florida, and I woke up one day and thought, I'm going to be here the rest of my life. This is my only chance. I was in my early 30s, which is kind of late to do that. And this is like living in Fort Lauderdale, which is the yachting capital. I decided to put my house up for rent, and I went to work on board as a chief stewardess on yachts. So I traveled all over the world doing that. I did that for 4 years, and then I came back and I became a private estate manager. So I basically worked for the same high net worth individuals, managing their estates and their yachts and their staff and that type of thing. When my daughter was young, I decided to go back into yachting. So I started off in yacht management, and then I morphed into charter management. So I used to represent the owner. So I managed a fleet of yachts and did the marketing, and worked with the charter brokers. And about 6 years ago, I decided, well, I might as well do what I haven't done. And I became a charter broker. So it's been really great. And because of my experience, all of that has come in extremely helpful, especially working on board and then managing the yachts and that type of thing too. So
That's
that's
awesome.
about it.
So, how many years have you been chartering yachts?
I have been the last 11 years in management and as a retail charter broker, the last six.
Wow.
Yes.
I know I've come to you to hire yacht charters for my clients, and we've built a friendship. We have, even though you live in Florida and I'm in Virginia, you have a little bit of a Virginia background. You're from
Yes.
Richmond, and I live in
Yes.
Northern Virginia, so
Yes.
we've got that connection. But your company has done well by my clients, I must say. So anyway, I am going to share my screen because I have lots of
Of course.
photos that I want to showcase on some of the yacht charters that we've got going on. Um, let's see. I'm going to start with Cartouche, which is a
Okay.
catamaran.
She
And
is. She is, and she has a very, very busy active charter program. One of the nice features about the catamarans, from oftentimes in the Caribbean and mostly when they charter in the Mediterranean, they're not all inclusive. But in the Caribbean and the BVIs and the USVIs, the catamarans are typically all inclusive, which is great because all of your expenses are included, your food, your beverages. If you want something really high end, let's say champagne or something like that, but you'd be surprised what they do include, which is usually a pretty good variety of drinks and food. And she's a beautiful boat, and she spends the winters in the Caribbean, and the summer she's over in Greece, and she's a beautiful boat.
wow.
And just to give you an idea, she's a little bit of a more pricier catamaran, but you can see why. Her rate's around $55,000 per week, all inclusive.
How many bedrooms does she have?
I believe she has four.
And that includes a crude yacht. And
Includes everything, crew, food, beverages, everything. Um, Taxes or port fees might be a little bit extra, or anything special you want to do, or excursions. A lot of these boats also offer scuba diving, which some of the motor yachts don't. It's typically third party done by someone else. But she's a stunning example of a really lovely catamaran.
she is very modern, I'll give you
And
that.
her crew is also very water sports inclined. I think they do kite surfing and they do all kinds of things, and they also dive off the boat. But she's a beauty for sure.
So now we're going to go over to Santouche, or is it Santosh?
It's Santush, even though
Sant
it looks like Santush.
Okay,
Let me tell you a little bit
so
about this boat.
she
Yeah,
can
she
handle.
she is new to the charter market. She is a very big volume boat for, if you just scroll up a little bit to see the specs, just a little bit. She's 108 feet, but she sleeps 10 guests, which is really good for a boat of that size. She's really beautiful. She has a beautiful interior. I have been on board. I've seen her a couple of times. She's very beamy, so she's very wide. She's a great charter boat, and she's available in the summer in the Bahamas, in Florida, and the winter in the Caribbean and the Bahamas.
Wow. And she was built in 2020.
Yeah, she's new, and she's new to charter. She was private for the first 2 years, meaning just the owner's use. And now she's a really successful has a successful charter program, but she's really lovely.
And where is she based out of?
Miami.
Miami. And you can sail her all year round throughout the Caribbean or like
Winters in the Caribbean and summer in the Bahamas. So some of the charter locations are seasonal. So, for example, the Caribbean is only in the winter. The boats kind of leave after the winter, usually after Easter, and they either head back over to Europe, to the West Med, or they go to their other destinations or to the
okay.
yard first to have work done. Look at that. She's got a beautiful little cinema, drop down cinema outside too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So if somebody
Yeah.
wanted to rent a yacht charter like motor or a cat in the summertime in the Caribbean, that might be a little challenging because a lot of them
In the
are
lower
in.
Caribbean, and one of the reasons is that the insurance companies don't like to insure boats in the Caribbean, the lower Caribbean in the summer because of hurricane season.
Okay.
So yes,
Are we talking lower Caribbean like St. Lucia, Grenada, or are we
yes,
talking
and St.
Antigua?
Martin, St. Bart's. The only time you'll see the USVIs and the BVIs, well, the catamarans charter there year round, but a lot of the motor yachts clear out of the Caribbean in general, and that would be from the U.S. Virgin Islands all the way down through Grenada because of the hurricane season.
Now,
But the
who
catamarans stay put.
Okay. So, who would be the typical yacht charter customer? Who would consider this over a land vacation?
Anyone, we get, I get have clients that are from families to couples to, I did a wedding on a boat, a motor yacht, a couple right before COVID. We had a wedding on a motor yacht in St. Thomas, and then the couple went off on their honeymoon to the BVI's just by themselves for a week. But we see bachelors, we see girls trips. I mean, we get a little bit of everything.
Can you do so single girls trips, single guy
Yes,
trips, things
yes,
like that,
yes,
as well as multi-gen? Like I just had a client that retired and he took his family on vacation to
yes. And
celebrate his retirement.
yes. And I can tell you that Alaska is a very popular charter location in the summer. I've done several multi-generational trips there because there's so much to see in the wildlife and everything too. Alaska is a really great destination for multi-generational. So is the Caribbean. The thing about Alaska, though, there's not a tremendous amount of boats that are there. So those boats book up pretty quickly. So
I
those
was
book
going
up
to
pretty far in advance, which is in general, back to catamarans, those boats book up really far in advance, especially for the holidays. So anyone who's looking to book something for Christmas and New Year's got to do it almost a year in advance. You and I just had your wonderful client who was on board. They booked theirs really far in advance, even though it's not as busy
They booked
this
it
time of
for the
year.
month of March in the Caribbean, and they
Yes,
booked it almost 2 years in advance, about a
yes,
year and 8 months, a year and 9 months in advance. And they booked it during 2020 or 2021 for sailing March of
I think it
2023.
was 2021.
Yeah. And I was quite impressed. Turned out to be a lovely family to work with. But anyway, what are your most popular destinations for yacht chartering?
So one of the most popular is the Bahamas, and one of the reasons why is because it's a year-round destination. So they're just not seasonal. Um, Back to COVID, when COVID happened, the Bahamas were locked down for an initial like maybe 30 days, but after that, they were the only location that was consistently able to charter, throughout the recover of COVID. So that's a really popular destination. The Caribbean is very popular in the winter month through April, usually, Easter time, Passover time. And then those are really the popular locations. A little bit of Mexico, but not too much. And I'm talking winter now. Also, French Polynesia is also popular as well. And then you move on to summer, the West Med, France, Italy, Spain, and Croatia and Greece is a very active charter destinations. They're better priced, I think, than the West Med, and the West Med has gotten really crazy during July and August. So I would also recommend the low season of May and September into October, especially in Italy, because the crowds are gone, the rates are lower, and it's a really good time to do a yacht charter there
And if
too.
anyone's considering going to Croatia, the best way to see Croatia is by boat, not by land,
Yes.
So
No,
Croatia is
I
really
agree, and I
fun.
was very fortunate to do a trip from Split, and we sailed on the big motor sailors to Dubrovnik, and it was really magical, and it was truly amazing.
Wow,
It's really
that's
beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
So when is yacht charter season? Is there a specific season or is it year round depending on where on planet Earth you
Well,
want
it
to
just
charter
depends.
your?
Bahamas is year round. Um, Bahamas is definitely year round. And then a lot of the boats go to the Caribbean for the holidays. They might come up to the Bahamas for some springtime. And then they either go into the yard to get maintenance work done and get ready for the summer season. And then they might go up to New England in the US. That's a popular destination as well. In the US, it would be Alaska or New England in the summer, or over to the Mediterranean or the East Mediterranean. Greece is also a very popular charter destination, and there's a lot of boats that just charter in the summer in Greece. And I actually will be going to see those boats in May. So I travel to go look at the inventory, so I can see the boats that are available over there as well.
That's amazing. So, is there a specific popular occasion that somebody would rent a charter, like for a birthday or, like you said, a destination wedding? Um, can someone get legally married if they're on international water?
We did ours was in this one I did was in the USVIs.
Okay, so US. Is there a specific popular kind of season to rent yacht charter, or is it just whenever, year
It's year
round?
round, and depending on where you're going to go would be the time when the boats might be in a specific location.
And how much does it cost to charter a yacht? Now, I've got Driftwood up right now, which is that's quite, I mean, she was built in 2017, holds 12 guests. And I'm just going to kind of go through the
She
gallery.
is one of my favorite boats. The last couple years, so the owner is the GoPro founder, very
Oh, really?
extreme sports guy. If you look at the pictures, they are extreme sports. All the crew members are certified in kite surfing or scuba. The owner has spent a lot of time in Panama and Costa Rica. They're actually taking the boat over to New Zealand and Australia soon, and they'll probably be over there for a while, French Polynesia. But yeah, she's a really stunning boat. I've been on board. Look at her
Look at that.
selection of all that stuff. She's beautiful, Zen, Buddha, really lovely.
Yeah, you can tell. Look at that. You can even tell these photos are like GoPro photos. I
She's
mean,
got it all.
who would have known? So basically, if somebody is watching this and they're wondering if they can afford a yacht charter, what is the typical price for a yacht charter?
So for people who have have a certain budget and they looking at to spend, like, depending on I want, it's not low budget but a lower budget. The catamarans are definitely the way to go. They're all inclusive, so you know exactly what your costs are going to be up front. You can get a catamaran starting at 45 feet, all inclusive, $20,000 and up, I would say. I
What
mean, there's some
season? Would that be Christmas season or would that
that
be?
would be anytime but the holidays, and usually there's like a 5 or 10% premium just for the holiday weeks for Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, we call that festive season. That's known
Yes,
as
we
the
do too.
travel festive season. A lot when I talk to my clients and I'm like, do you want to go during festive? And they're like, what's festive? And it's Christmas and New Year's festive
Yes,
season. It's the
yes,
most expensive time of the year to travel,
it
and you
is.
have to book a year and a half, some in some cases 2 years in advance. But there's a surcharge and usually a minimum during festive. But if you're not traveling during festive, then um, regular pricing, I would imagine.
Yes, and that's why St. Bart's and that area is, as you've seen, is really super busy. I mean, there's hundreds of yachts in the harbor there on New
Yeah,
Year's
that
Eve.
that looks like a GoPro photo right there.
Yeah.
Now, when you say the catamarans are all inclusive, what about motor yachts? Are they?
So motor yachts typically, no, they're not all inclusive. So it's everything is based on the charter fee. So the charter fee, let's say if you're paying $100,000 for a yacht for the week, that includes the boat and the crew. Everything else is plus plus. So how
So
we typically
fuel?
calculate, no, nothing's included. What we do is we take the charter fee and we calculate a percentage of the charter fee for provisioning. And it's called the advanced provisioning allowance. And that allowance will cover any costs associated with the charter, including fuel, food, beverages, alcohol, shore excursions, dockage, any costs that are associated with the charter will be taken out of the provisioning. So you've got the charter fee of $100,000. We're seeing the APAs now up to 35%, 40% in the Bahamas because the cost of everything has increased so much,
No.
especially fuel. And provisioning has become very challenging in the Bahamas because of where they are. So a lot of people will fly things in, or they'll be over here in Florida and they can try and provision at least for some of what they need before they come over to the Bahamas. But the provisioning is running about 35% in other locations.
So catamarans is not only a more economical option, but it's fully inclusive of fuel and provisions, correct?
Yes, beverages, just about anything. There's a lot of the catamarans offer scuba, and they will say, okay, the charter fee also includes up to 2, 3 dives per person a day or something like that too. So that's a really good value. A lot of the motor yachts don't do the scuba for insurance purposes off the boat, but they'll like bring someone on and it's paid for. I mean, it's extra. It's called rendezvous diving, where you do it through a third party.
Wow. And these
Look at this
these
boat. I know.
I mean, this is amazing, but this is what, $200,000?
No,
This,
it's a bit more than that.
of course.
She's around 325 a week.
Wow, that's crazy. Um, so once someone makes a decision that they found the perfect yacht charter, whether it be catamaran, motor yacht, sail, once they've decided on the yacht, take us through the steps of chartering the yacht. What
Okay.
a contract? What's involved
Yes.
here?
So once we decide on the boat, and I work with the charter manager who represents the owner and the yacht, then we get the paperwork together. There's a contract. I draft the contract. We get it approved. And then once that's approved, I generate the contract and an invoice and wire details. We send that to the client. The client signs the contract first, then the owner. Usually it's about a week process between when you receive the contract to sign it and get the owner to sign and send your deposit in. So how the payment works is when you sign the contract, 50% of the charter fee is due as a deposit on the charter. And then 30-ish days prior to the charter starting, you will send the other half of the charter fee along with the provisioning and any other taxes. Um, Bahamas has a lot of taxes. Caribbean charters do not, and neither do the BVIs. So again, that can run you anywhere from 14 to 22% of the charter fee, depending on where you're going to be chartering for
Right.
taxes or VAT.
So, and you work with travel advisors. So
Yes.
most clients will reach out to a travel advisor to figure out which boat or yacht charter, whether it be a sailboat, a catamaran, or a motor yacht. And then we the travel advisor would work directly with you. And then
Yes.
at some point, once that agreement is signed, we all synergize together and we do conference calls and we
Well,
work.
we do. And it's important to know that the contract is between the charter client and the owner, and I'm on the contract. So I facilitate all of that happening. And then if the charter is like less than 30 days, then all the money would be due up front, and then we would do that. But it's really important to note too that once the final payment's in, we have really specific provisioning forms. And these are used for the clients to put down all of their food allergies and restrictions. It's very specific on what time do you want breakfast? What do you like for breakfast? And we use these because we don't want the boat to over provision and spend more money than they need to. And so I use these also still for the catamaran inclusive, but it's really for the other charters where the clients are paying, for everything on the boat. So the
So
preference sheets are very important and they're very specific. So once we get those, as you know, once we get the preference sheets, I send those to the boat and we typically schedule a phone call with the client and with us to discuss, itinerary and food, and the chef will get on the call. So it's very specific. And, we're involved in every aspect of this until the client finishes the charter and gets back home and gives us their feedback. And we take care of the gratuity, which is additional on top of the rest of the fees as well.
right. So speaking of gratuities, how
Yes.
much is the gratuity? Like what percentage would they
So
pay?
gratuity is usual and customary, but it's at the complete discretion of the charterer, anywhere from 10 to 20%.
10
So
to 20% of what? The grand
of the
total
charter fee, no, just the
of the
charter fee.
just the charter.
Um, for the catamarans, I have a client who pointed out that he does not want to pay the gratuity on the entire fee because some of that is for the food, and it's a good point. So I had him base the gratuity on 80% of the cost because that's how we factor in the provisioning for that is probably 20%. But something important to point out regarding the gratuity, because a lot of people watch Below Deck.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yes.
Bravo.
So, and I've had a couple of my clients on there too.
Have you really?
But anyway, yes. And I know a lot of those kids because I'm here in Fort Lauderdale and a lot of them are here too. But anyway, contrary to Below Deck, and because as you know, you're not supposed to travel with a large amount of cash, we typically do all the gratuities by wire. And that's not something that the client has to worry about. So sometimes I'll have clients that send me the gratuity along with the rest of the payment, and they say, just hold on to this so I don't have to deal with it. And when the charter's over, they will tell me you can go ahead and release the gratuity. I've never had someone not release it, but it's again, it's nice you can prepay it or after the trip. If there's leftover provisioning money, you can apply that towards the gratuity, and then the client may wire me extra money to kind of make the gratuity whole, if you will.
So, and that was what I was going to lead into in terms of gratuity.
Yes.
So they would not bring cash because you can't travel around the world with and cross international borders with a large sum of cash like
Yes.
that.
More than $10,000.
So
Yes.
they would wire it to the broker. You can
Yes.
hold on to it. And when you would release it after the cruise is over or
Yeah,
during?
well, actually what we do is so the captain will also, if when this is not an all-inclusive charter, the captain will keep an accounting report. And so he will reconcile that with the charter at the end of the charter. They'll sit down and discuss it. He will provide the receipts and all the expenses, and then he'll have a bottom line as to what was left over. There's usually leftover. Sometimes, depending on what they're purchasing, they might have to send a wire, because they went over the APA. But it just depends on what the bottom line is. And then typically the client will leave whatever is left over towards the gratuity and then wire the rest of it to me. And then we wire that directly to the boat.
After the sale is over, after the yacht charter is over, usually you wire it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and let's talk. I want to circle back to the provisions. If somebody wanted lobster every night, something or caviar or something unusually expensive, they would charge a surcharge, or the provisioning fee is based on what? Chicken, steak, like.
Well, no, provisioning is based on whatever the client puts on their provisioning sheet.
Okay. So
And I've
whatever they
had
say they want, that's what the
whatever they
cost
want.
is.
They put it and the sheets are very specific, so you have room to put every single thing. Um, I've had clients that sometimes bring their own. I have a lot of clients that fly private, so I have clients that will either ship wine ahead or they'll bring their own wine from their own wine cellar. I had a big charter in St. Bart's a few weeks ago, and they brought a lot of their own, just different specialty things.
Right.
Again, it depends on what your budget is. And then this crew had to fly in provisions from Europe, and that's what they wanted. So again, it just depends. And all of these chefs on the catamarans, on the motor yachts, they're all really good trained chefs. So I think people are sometimes, surprised. Even on, well, our client A, who just finished his charter, he had a fabulous chef on board, and that
Yeah.
boat's reasonably priced.
Oh my
So
God.
yes,
And I even called you. I saw his Facebook photos and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a Michelin star restaurant. This F&B, the food and beverage was out of this world. And I wasn't even there eating it. I just saw the photos and I was impressed. And he had a catamaran. He didn't even have a motor yacht. And I'm like, wow,
no.
this is,
And also, the quality of the beverage list for the all-inclusive is really good. I have some people sometimes think, oh, well, I'll probably want to, send additional money to buy special things, but they have really nice, really great cocktails and wines and spirits and things like that. So typically, people are really pleasantly surprised. I think client A was pleasantly surprised about that as well.
yeah, I got really positive reviews when he got back. And I showed pictures to one of my friends who works for the British Virgin Island Tourist Board. And I showed her the photos, the F&Bs. And she's like, I wonder what chef did he get? And I'm like, well, here's a picture of this. I know him. I went to high school with him. It's such a small world in the travel industry. Everybody knows everybody, but if you're not in the travel industry, you know nobody. But when you're inside of it, everybody knows everybody.
Yes,
So
especially
it's
down in that BVI's as well and the US Virgin Islands, because it's the same. Yeah, it's a culture, and it's a lot of younger, I want to say kids in their early 20s, but you get a little bit of everything there too. But they all know each other as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Stacy, this has been really informative. I really appreciate you joining us today and educating us on yacht chartering. And if anyone is interested in chartering a yacht, whether it be for a retirement or a singles group or a destination wedding or a multi-gen Thanksgiving trip, please,
Yes.
yeah, right. Thanksgiving trip. So reach out to me. I'm Teresa from Honeymoon Islands, and I'll put my contact information below the YouTube channel. But I appreciate you joining, and hopefully somebody will be inspired by this webinar. And I hope it educated and inspired somebody to get out of their comfort zone and expand your horizons and do something different.
And
So
Teresa, I want to thank you so much for having me, and to let your audience know, it's just I thoroughly enjoy working with you. It's been a really wonderful working relationship so far. So I look forward to our next yacht charter together.
I do too. Well, thank you, Stacy.
Thank you
I'll
so
be in
much.
touch.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Okay,
Bye,
thanks. Take care.
everybody.
Bye bye.